The coffee machine in the break room gurgled its last breath at exactly 9:15 on a Tuesday morning, and Amelia Zhang watched helplessly as her boss strode past her in the hallway, oblivious to the impending caffeine crisis that would define the rest of her week. Patrick Pearson ran Pearson and Associates architecture firm like a finely tuned machine, all sharp edges and precise angles, the same aesthetic philosophy he applied to his award-winning building designs. The firm occupied 3 floors of a historic building in downtown Portland, and Amelia had worked there for 2 years as a junior architect, spending most of that time trying to remain invisible while secretly admiring the way Patrick could transform a blank canvas into something breathtaking. She had joined the firm fresh out of graduate school, 24 years old and brimming with ideas that usually got filtered through 3 other people before they reached anyone important. Patrick was 32, unmarried, and according to office gossip, married to his work instead. The company policy handbook, all 78 pages of it, made one thing abundantly clear in section 4.7. Romantic relationships between employees of different hierarchical levels were strictly prohibited and grounds for immediate termination. Amelia had read it during her first week, nodded, and never thought about it again. Patrick Pearson existed in a different stratosphere, attending galas and meeting with city council members while she measured load-bearing walls and calculated square footage. "The machine is dead," announced Marcus from accounting, peering into the break room with the expression of someone who had just witnessed a tragedy. "Someone needs to tell Patrick." "Why Patrick?" Amelia asked, though she already knew the answer. "Because he drinks about 6 cups before noon, and when Patrick does not get his coffee, bad things happen." Marcus retreated to his cubicle like a soldier abandoning the front lines. Amelia stood there holding her empty mug, painted with the words "World's Okayest Architect," a gift from her roommate who thought she needed to lighten up. The thing about working in a competitive field was that being okay was never good enough. She had been staying late every night for the past month, working on a proposal for a new community center that the city was commissioning. It was the kind of project that could make a career, and she wanted it so badly she could taste it, metallic and sharp like ambition always was. She walked to Patrick's office, knocked twice on the heavy oak door, and waited. His office walls were glass on 2 sides, overlooking the city, and she could see him bent over his drafting table, pencil moving in swift, confident strokes. He was wearing a navy suit with the jacket discarded over his chair, sleeves rolled to his elbows. There was something about the way he worked that reminded her why she had chosen this profession in the first place, that complete absorption in creation. "Come in," he called without looking up. "The coffee machine broke," Amelia said, feeling foolish for bothering him with something so mundane. "I thought you should know." Patrick finally glanced up, and she was struck, as she always was, by how intensely green his eyes were, like sea glass. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, as though he had been running his hands through it. "How broken?" "Very broken. Dead, actually." He set down his pencil with a sigh that seemed to come from somewhere deep. "That machine has been on its last legs for months. I kept telling facilities to replace it." He checked his watch, a simple silver piece that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "I have a meeting with the Morrison project team in 20 minutes. Can you call the supplier and get a new one ordered? Rush delivery." "Of course." She turned to leave, then hesitated. "Do you want me to make a coffee run in the meantime? There is a place 2 blocks down." Patrick looked at her properly then, and she felt the weight of his attention like a physical thing. "You do not have to do that, I know. But I also need coffee, and misery loves company." The words came out before she could stop them, too casual for addressing the CEO, Something shifted in his expression, a crack in the professional facade. "Fair enough. Large black coffee, nothing in it." "That is a terrible way to drink coffee," Amelia said, then immediately regretted her boldness. But Patrick smiled, and it transformed his entire face, making him look younger, more approachable. "You sound like my sister. She says I drink it like I am punishing myself." "Your sister sounds wise." "She is also incredibly annoying, so take that as you will." He pulled out his wallet and handed her a $20 bill. "Get whatever you want. Consider it hazard pay for dealing with a broken coffee machine." Amelia took the money, their fingers brushing briefly in the exchange. It was nothing, a moment that lasted half a second, but she felt it in her wrists, a small electric shock. "I will be back in 15 minutes. She grabbed her coat and headed out into the October morning, where the air smelled like rain and fallen leaves. The coffee shop was busy with the usual pre-lunch crowd, and she stood in line composing an email to the equipment supplier in her head. When she finally reached the counter, she ordered Patrick's black coffee and a vanilla latte for herself, then added 2 blueberry muffins on impulse because she had skipped breakfast and assumed he had too, based on the fact that he had been in the office since 6:30. The walk back felt longer than it should have, and she found herself thinking about the way Patrick had smiled, unguarded and genuine. She had been working at the firm long enough to know his moods, the way his jaw tightened when a project was not going well, the small satisfied nod he gave when something exceeded expectations. She knew he took his lunch at his desk and rarely left before 7 in the evening. She knew he was brilliant and demanding and fair, that he remembered everyone's names and asked about their families, that he had built the firm from nothing into one of the most respected architectural companies in the Pacific Northwest. What she did not know was why her heart was beating faster as she rode the elevator back up to the 3rd floor. Patrick's meeting was still going when she returned, visible through the conference room glass walls. She left his coffee on his desk with one of the muffins, then retreated to her own workspace, a desk in an open area she shared with 5 other junior architects. Her best friend at the firm, Sarah, looked up from her computer screen with curious eyes. "Did you really just do a coffee run for Patrick Pearson? The machine is broken," Amelia said defensively. "I was going anyway." "Right." Sarah drew out the word like taffy. "You know Jennifer got fired last year for dating someone in management." "I am not dating anyone. I bought coffee." "I am just saying, be careful. Patrick is gorgeous and rich and single, which makes him approximately the most dangerous person in this building for your career." Amelia unwrapped her muffin and broke off a piece, considering Sarah's words. Her friend was not wrong. Patrick was all those things, and he was also completely off limits. The policy existed for good reasons, to prevent favoritism and harassment and messy breakups that destroyed workplace dynamics. She had no intention of becoming another cautionary tale. "It was just coffee," she repeated, but the words felt hollow even to her own ears. The afternoon passed in the usual blur of CAD drawings and client emails. Amelia was deep into revising elevation plans when a shadow fell across her desk. She looked up to find Patrick standing there, the empty coffee cup in his hand. "Thank you for this," he said. "And the muffin. You were right, I had not eaten." "You are welcome." She was acutely aware that everyone in the open office was pretending not to listen while absolutely listening. "I wanted to talk to you about something. Do you have a minute?" Her stomach dropped. Had someone complained about the coffee run? Had she overstepped some boundary she did not know existed? "Sure." She followed him back to his office, hyper-conscious of the eyes tracking their movement. Patrick closed the door behind them and gestured to one of the leather chairs facing his desk. The office smelled like coffee and paper and something else, cedar maybe, woody and clean. "I have been reviewing the submissions for the community center project," Patrick said, settling into his own chair. "Yours stood out." Amelia blinked, thrown by the change in topic. "Oh, it is good, really good. The way you incorporated green space and natural light, the accessibility considerations, the community input integration. It is exactly what the city is looking for." He pulled up something on his computer screen, turning the monitor so she could see. It was her design, rendered in 3 dimensions, the building she had poured her soul into for weeks. "I want to put you on the pitch team. We present to the city council next month, and I think you should be there to explain your vision." This was not happening. Junior architects did not get put on pitch teams for major projects. They did background work and took notes and hoped that someday, eventually, they might get a chance to present. "Are you serious?" "I do not joke about work," Patrick said, but his tone was warm. "You have talent, Amelia. Real talent. I have known that since you joined the firm, but this project proves you are ready for more responsibility." She felt like she might float out of her chair. "Thank you. I do not know what to say." "Say you will put together a presentation that will make the city council weep with joy." He smiled that transformative smile again. "And maybe help me find a decent coffee machine that will not die at inconvenient moments." "I can do both those things." "Good." He stood, extending his hand. She shook it, his palm warm and calloused in a way that surprised her. She had expected softness, but of course he still drafted by hand sometimes, still built models, still got his hands dirty with the actual work of creation. "Welcome to the team." Amelia walked back to her desk in a daze. Sarah grabbed her arm the moment she sat down. "What was that about?" "He put me on the community center pitch team." "What? Amelia, that is huge." Sarah hugged her, knocking over a cup of pens in her enthusiasm. "We are celebrating tonight, drinks at Morrison's, 6 o'clock, non-negotiable." The rest of the day passed in a blur of congratulations from colleagues and frantic note-taking as Patrick emailed her the project timeline. She was going to be working directly with him for the next month, refining the design, preparing the presentation, coordinating with engineers and contractors. It was the opportunity she had been dreaming of, and she was determined not to waste it. That evening at Morrison's, a bar 3 blocks from the office that most of the firm frequented, Sarah ordered them both gin and tonics and raised her glass in a toast. "To Amelia Zhang, future star architect." "It is one project," Amelia protested, but she clinked her glass anyway. "It is never just one project. This is how careers are made." Sarah took a long drink, then fixed Amelia with a serious look. "Just promise me you will be careful." "Careful about what?" "About Patrick. I saw the way he looked at you when you came out of his office. He looked at me like an employee who did good work. If you say so." Sarah clearly did not believe her, and the worst part was that Amelia was not sure she believed herself. The truth was that something had shifted in Patrick's office, some invisible line that had been drawn and then quietly erased. She had felt it in the handshake, in the way his eyes had held hers a beat too long. Or maybe she was imagining it, projecting her own nascent feelings onto innocent professional interactions. She thought about the policy handbook, section 4.7, and wondered what kind of person risked everything for a chance at something that would probably burn out anyway. She had worked too hard to get here, had too much riding on this career to throw it away for attraction that was likely one-sided. But when she went to bed that night, she dreamed of green eyes and that transformative smile, and when she woke up, her first thought was that she would see him today. The next month unfolded like a flower opening, each petal a new moment of collaboration and connection. Amelia found herself in Patrick's office almost daily, spreading blueprints across his drafting table, debating the merits of different materials, sketching modifications with increasingly worn pencils. He was a demanding collaborator, pushing her to justify every choice, to think 3 steps ahead, to consider angles she had missed. But he also listened, really listened, and more than once he incorporated her suggestions in ways that made the design stronger. They fell into a rhythm. Morning coffee runs became routine, alternating who paid, experimenting with different shops in the neighborhood. Patrick's order never changed, but Amelia worked her way through the menu, determined to find the perfect drink. They discovered a shared love of old movies, particularly film noir, and spent 20 minutes one afternoon debating whether The Maltese Falcon or The Big Sleep was the superior example of the genre. "You are wrong," Patrick said, leaning back in his chair with his arms crossed. "The Big Sleep has better dialogue, better chemistry, and a plot that is deliberately incomprehensible in a way that adds to the mystique. The Maltese Falcon has Bogart at his best, a tighter story, and Mary Astor being absolutely magnificent," Amelia countered. "The Big Sleep is just Chandler being in love with his own voice. Chandler earned the right to be in love with his own voice. That is the most pretentious thing I have ever heard you say." Patrick laughed, the sound filling his office, and she realized with a start that she could not remember the last time she had enjoyed herself this much. Work had always been work, something to be endured and conquered. But this felt different, like play, like they were building something together that mattered. Sarah's warnings echoed in her mind every time she caught herself staring at the way Patrick's brow furrowed in concentration, or the way he gestured with his hands when he was excited about an idea, fingers drawing shapes in the air. She was being careful. They were being professional. The fact that her pulse quickened when he said her name was irrelevant. 3 weeks into the collaboration, they were working late on a Friday evening, the office empty except for the cleaning crew vacuuming somewhere on the 2nd floor. The presentation was in a week, and they were perfecting the final slides. Patrick had ordered Thai food, and they were eating spring rolls and pad Thai straight from the containers, bent over his computer. "What made you want to be an architect?" Amelia asked during a lull, the question surprising her as much as him. Patrick set down his fork, considering. "My father was a builder, not an architect, just a general contractor who worked on houses. He used to take me to job sites when I was a kid, and I loved seeing things go from drawings to actual spaces people would live in, but I wanted to be the one designing the drawings." He smiled at the memory. "He died when I was in college. Heart attack, completely unexpected. I almost quit, but my mom convinced me to finish. She said he would have wanted that." "I am sorry," Amelia said and meant it. "It was a long time ago. What about you? My grandmother raised me after my parents died in a car accident when I was 7. She lived in this tiny apartment in San Francisco, and I used to draw elaborate houses for us, mansions with libraries and greenhouses and secret passages. She would hang them on the refrigerator like they were masterpieces." Amelia felt the familiar ache that came with talking about her grandmother who had passed away 2 years ago. "She told me that architects were people who made dreams real, and I wanted to do that, make dreams real for people." "You are doing that," Patrick said quietly. "This community center, it is going to change lives, give people a place to gather, to grow, to belong." Their eyes met, and the moment stretched between them like a bridge. Amelia was suddenly aware of how close they were sitting, how intimate this felt, sharing food and stories in an empty office. She should pull back, make a joke, do something to break the tension. But she did not want to. She wanted to stay in this moment, this perfect bubble where nothing else existed except the two of them. Patrick's phone buzzed, shattering the spell. He glanced at the screen and sighed. My sister. She wants to know if I am coming to her dinner party tomorrow. Are you? I hate dinner parties. Too much small talk with people I do not know, talking about property values and vacation homes. He typed out a response. But she is persistent, and I am a bad brother if I say no. You should go, Amelia said, closing the takeout container. Family is important, spoken like an only child. Correct. She stood, gathering the trash. I should head out, it is late. Patrick checked his watch and looked surprised. It is past 11, I did not realize. Let me walk you to your car. You do not have to do that, I know, but the parking garage is not the safest place at this hour. His tone made it clear the discussion was over. They rode the elevator down in comfortable silence, and Amelia wondered what he was thinking. The garage was nearly empty, their footsteps echoing off concrete. Her car, a practical Honda Civic that had seen better days, was parked near the back. Patrick waited while she unlocked it and tossed her bag inside. Thank you, she said, for dinner and the walk and this whole project. It has been incredible. You have earned it. He stood with his hands in his pockets, looking like he wanted to say something else. What? She prompted. Nothing, just drive safe, see you Monday. Amelia drove home with the radio off, replaying the evening in her mind. She was in dangerous territory. She knew that. But knowing something and doing something about it were different things entirely. When she crawled into bed an hour later, she allowed herself to imagine, just for a moment, what it would be like if things were different. If they worked for different companies, if there was no policy handbook, if they could explore this connection that was building between them like architecture, one careful brick at a time. But then she pushed the thought away, because some buildings were never meant to be constructed. The presentation to the city council went flawlessly. Amelia stood in the council chambers, her voice steady as she walked through the design, highlighting the sustainable features, the community engagement, the ways the building would serve the neighborhood for decades to come. Patrick watched from the side of the room, and when she glanced his way, he gave her an encouraging nod. The council members asked questions, tough ones, and she answered them all. She had lived with this design for so long that it felt like part of her, and defending it came naturally. When the session ended, the council president thanked them and said they would be in touch within the week. Outside on the steps of City Hall, Patrick turned to her with that smile that never failed to make her heart stumble. You were incredible in there. Absolutely incredible. We were incredible, she corrected. This was a team effort. Take the compliment, Amelia. He looked like he wanted to hug her, but they were in public and he was her boss, so he settled for squeezing her shoulder briefly. The team is going out to lunch to celebrate. Will you come? She should have said yes. It was the professional thing to do to celebrate with the entire pitch team that had worked so hard, but she was exhausted from the adrenaline crash, and she needed space to process what she was feeling. I think I need some time to decompress. Rain check, of course. If he was disappointed, he hit it well. Enjoy the rest of your day. You earned it. Amelia walked to a nearby park and sat on a bench, watching people pass by. Joggers and mothers with strollers and businessmen on phone calls, everyone absorbed in their own lives. She thought about what Sarah had said weeks ago, about being careful. The problem was that careful was becoming increasingly difficult when she looked forward to seeing Patrick more than anything else in her day, when his praise meant more than any salary increase. When she found herself wondering what it would be like to hold his hand, to kiss him, to be with him outside the confines of the office, her phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Heard the presentation killed. Proud of you, she typed back. Thanks. How do you know when you are in trouble? Sarah's response came quickly. You already know you are in trouble. The question is what you are going to do about it. Amelia did not have an answer to that. The call came on a Wednesday. They had won the bid. The community center was theirs. The office erupted in celebration, champagne appearing from somewhere, people hugging and high-fiving. Patrick found Amelia in the chaos and pulled her into his office, closing the door against the noise. "We did it," he said, and his joy was unfiltered, boyish, beautiful. "We did it," she echoed, and then she was in his arms and she did not know who had moved first. The hug lasted too long. She knew it and he knew it, but neither of them pulled away. She could feel his heartbeat against her cheek, could smell cedar and coffee and something uniquely him. When they finally separated, there was a charged moment where they stood too close, his hand still on her shoulders. "Amelia," he said, and her name sounded different in his voice, weighted with meaning. The door burst open and Marcus from accounting stuck his head in. "Patrick, they want you to make a toast," the moment shattered. Patrick stepped back, professional distance reasserting itself. "Be right there." Marcus disappeared and Patrick ran a hand through his hair, looking rattled. "We should talk. Later. Away from the office." "Okay," Amelia said, though her mind was screaming warnings. "Tomorrow evening. There is a place I know, quiet. I can pick you up at 7. She should say no. Every rational part of her brain was screaming to say no. Yes. Patrick nodded once, then returned to the celebration, slipping back into his role as the confident CEO. Amelia followed more slowly, accepting congratulations, drinking champagne she did not taste. Sarah caught her eye across the room, a question written on her face, but Amelia just shook her head slightly. She did not know how to explain what had just happened, what was going to happen tomorrow. That night, she lay awake staring at her ceiling, thinking about the policy handbook and career trajectories, and what happened to people who broke rules for feelings that might not even be real. She thought about Patrick's arms around her, the way he had said her name like it mattered. She thought about her grandmother, who had told her once that the best things in life required risk, required believing that some things were worth the fear. She was terrified. The next evening, Amelia changed outfits 3 times before settling on a navy dress that was nice without being too dressy, professional without being boring. She left her hair down and applied minimal makeup, then immediately second-guessed all of it. When Patrick knocked on her apartment door at exactly 7, she considered not answering, just hiding in her bathroom until he went away. But she opened the door. Patrick stood in the hallway wearing dark jeans and a gray sweater that made his eyes even more striking. He looked nervous, which somehow made her feel better. "Hi. Hi." She grabbed her purse and coat, stepping out into the hallway. "You look beautiful," he said quietly. "Thank you. You look nice too." They drove in his car, something expensive and foreign that she did not recognize, making small talk about the weather and weekend plans. The restaurant he took her to was out in the hills, overlooking the city, intimate and dimly lit. The hostess seated them at a corner table by the window, where lights spread out below them like scattered stars. "I have never been here," Amelia said, studying the menu. "It is one of my favorite places. My father took my mother here on their first date." Patrick set down his menu without looking at it. "I should probably start by saying this is wildly inappropriate." "Very inappropriate," she agreed. "I am your boss. There is a policy. This could end badly in about 100 different ways. Probably more like 1,000. He laughed, some of the tension breaking. "I have been thinking about this, about you, for weeks now, maybe longer, and I know all the reasons this is a bad idea. I know that I should have kept things professional, that I am putting both our careers at risk, that the smart thing would be to finish this dinner and pretend this conversation never happened. But," Amelia prompted, her heart hammering, "but I cannot stop thinking about you." The way you argue with me about movies. The way you draw, biting your lip when you are concentrating. The way you laugh at my terrible jokes. The way you made a broken coffee machine into something memorable. He reached across the table, his hand palm up, an invitation. I do not know if this is just me or if you feel it too. Amelia looked at his hand, at the choice being offered. She thought about Section 4.7, about everything she had worked for, about the smart play versus the honest one. Then she placed her hand in his, their fingers intertwining. It is not just you. The relief on Patrick's face was immediate and profound. So what do we do? I have no idea, she laughed, surprised by how freeing it felt to admit it. This is the first time I have ever considered breaking a rule that mattered. Same. He stroked his thumb across her knuckles, the gesture tender. We would have to be discreet, at least until we figure out what this is, if it is real or just, I do not know, proximity and late nights working together. I think we both know it is more than that. I know. But we should be sure. We should take this slow, keep it quiet. He looked conflicted, like every word cost him something. I do not want to ask you to hide, but I understand. The optics would be bad. People would assume favoritism, that I only got the promotion because we are involved. Amelia squeezed his hand. I am okay with being careful. For now. The waitress appeared to take their order, and they reluctantly separated hands. Patrick ordered wine and recommended a pasta dish that he promised was incredible. The conversation flowed easily, moving from architecture to family to childhood dreams. Amelia learned that Patrick had wanted to be an astronaut until he was 12, that he could not cook to save his life, that he had a scar on his knee from falling off a bike when he was 7. He learned that she was terrified of spiders, that she had read Pride and Prejudice 11 times, that she wanted to someday design a library. Why a library? He asked. Because libraries are about possibility. Every book is a door, and the building should reflect that sense of wonder and potential. She felt herself blushing. That probably sounds ridiculous. It sounds perfect. Patrick's expression was soft. When you design your library, I want to see it. When I design my library, you will be the first person I show. They lingered over dinner, ordering dessert and coffee, reluctant for the evening to end. When Patrick finally drove her home, he walked her to her apartment door like a proper date from an earlier era. Thank you for tonight, Amelia said, fishing her keys from her purse. Thank you for saying yes. He hesitated, then leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull back. She did not. The kiss was soft and tentative, a question more than a statement. But then she pressed closer, and his hands cupped her face, and the kiss deepened into something that felt like falling and flying at the same time. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Patrick rested his forehead against hers. Worth it, he whispered. Whatever happens, this was worth it. Amelia kissed him again, quick and sweet. See you Monday, see you Monday. She watched him walk away, then let herself into her apartment and leaned against the door, smiling like an idiot. Her phone buzzed almost immediately. Sarah, of course. You better call me right now, Amelia called. I knew it, Sarah crowed before Amelia could say hello. I saw the way he looked at you at the celebration. When did this happen? Tonight was our first actual date, but things have been building for a while. Amelia moved to her couch, curling up. We are keeping it quiet, smart. The policy is no joke. Jennifer got walked out the same day HR found out. Sarah's tone turned serious. Are you sure about this? Patrick is a good guy, but if it goes wrong, you are the one who will lose more. I know. But Sarah, I really like him, and I think he really likes me. It feels, I do not know, different. Okay. I am happy for you, genuinely. Just be careful and keep me updated. Sarah paused. And maybe invest in some good concealer because you are going to need it to hide the glow tomorrow. They talked for another hour before Amelia finally hung up and got ready for bed. She lay in the dark, touching her lips where Patrick had kissed her, wondering how something that felt so right could be so complicated. But she had made her choice. She had put her hand in his and stepped off the cliff, and all she could do now was hope they would figure out how to fly. The next few weeks were a study in discretion. At the office, Patrick and Amelia maintained perfect professionalism. They communicated through proper channels, kept their meetings focused and brief, never gave anyone a reason to look twice. But after hours was different. They found stolen moments, dinners at out-of-the-way restaurants, walks through quiet neighborhoods, long drives with no destination. They talked about everything and nothing, learning each other's histories and habits. Patrick told her about building the firm from scratch, the early years when he worked 20-hour days and ate ramen for every meal. He told her about his sister, Caroline, who taught high school English and gave him endless grief about his lack of work-life balance. He told her about the pressure of being successful, how sometimes he felt like an imposter waiting to be found out. Amelia shared her own fears, about never being good enough, about the weight of being the first person in her family to graduate from college, about losing her grandmother and feeling unmoored. She told him about the loneliness of ambition, how she had sacrificed friendships and relationships to focus on her career, how she sometimes wondered if she was becoming hollow in pursuit of achievement. "You are not hollow," Patrick said one evening as they sat in his car overlooking the river. "You are one of the most present, engaged people I have ever met. You have to say that. You are dating me. I am saying it because it is true." He took her hand, weaving their fingers together. "I have never met anyone who cares as much as you do about getting things right. It is one of the things I love about you." The word hung in the air between them. Love. Too soon, too much, too real. "Sorry," Patrick said quickly. "I did not mean to, I know it has only been a few weeks, Patrick." Amelia turned to face him, her heart in her throat. "I love you too." His eyes searched hers, looking for doubt and finding none. Then he was kissing her, deep and desperate, and she was kissing him back, pouring everything she felt into the connection between them. When they broke apart, both of them were smiling. "This is insane," Patrick said, but he was laughing. "I am in love with you and we cannot tell anyone, and I have never been happier." "Same, all of that same." They sat in the dark car, holding each other, and Amelia thought about how strange life was, how you could plan and strategize and control every variable, and then something unexpected would derail everything in the best possible way. But the secrecy wore on them. Amelia hated lying to Sarah, hated the careful distance they maintained at work. Patrick struggled with not being able to acknowledge what they had, with watching other men in the office try to flirt with Amelia and having to stay silent. The community center project moved forward, requiring more collaboration, more late nights, more reasons for people to notice them together. 2 months into their relationship, Marcus from accounting cornered Amelia in the break room. "So, are you and Patrick a thing, or what?" Amelia's blood went cold. "What are you talking about? Come on. I see you two leaving at the same time, the way he looks at you when he thinks no one is watching. I am not going to say anything, but other people might notice." Marcus poured himself coffee from the new machine. "Just be careful, okay? The policy exists for a reason." After he left, Amelia sat at the small table, her hands shaking. She texted Patrick, "We need to talk." They met that evening at his place, a modern condo with floor-to-ceiling windows and furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. Amelia paced his living room while Patrick leaned against the kitchen counter, his jaw tight. "Marcus knows," she said. "Or suspects. He said he would not say anything, but what if someone else figures it out? What if it gets to HR? Then we deal with it." Patrick's voice was firm. I am not giving you up, Amelia. I do not care about the policy. You should care. You built this company. I will not be the reason you lose it. You would not be the reason. The policy would be the reason. He crossed to her, taking her hands. Listen to me. I have been thinking about this a lot. About us, about the future. There are options. What kind of options? You could transfer to a different firm. We have partners, other companies we work with regularly. I could arrange a position for you, something at your level or higher, and then we would not be violating any policies. Amelia pulled away. You want me to leave the firm? Not because I do not value your work, because I value us more. Patrick looked frustrated. Or I could step back, bring in a managing partner to run the day-to-day operations. Put some distance between us hierarchically. Step back from the company you built. That is absurd. Then what do you suggest? He was not angry, just tired. Because sneaking around is not sustainable. Someone is going to find out, and when they do, it will be worse than if we had been honest from the start. Amelia sank onto his couch, pulling a throw pillow into her lap. I do not want to leave the firm. I love my job. I love the projects we are working on. And I definitely do not want you to step back from your own company because of me. Patrick sat beside her, close but not touching. Then maybe we need to be honest. Go to HR, disclose the relationship, deal with whatever consequences come. I could lose my job. I would not let that happen. You might not have a choice. She looked at him, at the man she loved, and felt the weight of an impossible situation. The policy says relationships between different hierarchical levels are prohibited. You are the CEO. I am a junior architect. There is no bigger hierarchical difference than that. Then we fight it. Challenge the policy. It is outdated and paternalistic, assuming that two adults cannot navigate a relationship without it affecting their work. Or it exists to protect people in my position from being taken advantage of by people in your position. Amelia stood, needing to move. I do not think you would ever do that, but that is the perception. If we go public, people will assume I got where I am because of you, that I slept my way into opportunities. All my work, everything I have achieved, it will be tainted. Patrick stood too, and she could see the war being fought behind his eyes. So what do we do? I do not know. The admission felt like defeat. They stood in his beautiful condo, the city lights sprawling behind them, and for the first time since this started, Amelia wondered if love was enough. She had always believed that hard work and talent would carry her through anything, that if she was just good enough, smart enough, dedicated enough, success would follow. But no one had taught her how to navigate this, how to choose between a career and a person, how to balance what she wanted with what was allowed. I need some time to think, she said finally. This is not a decision we should make when we are emotional. Patrick nodded slowly. Okay. But Amelia, whatever we decide together. This is not just your problem or my problem, it is ours. She kissed him, soft and sad. I will call you tomorrow. The drive home was a blur, and when she got to her apartment, Sarah was waiting on her doorstep. Your building manager let me in. You look terrible. What happened? Amelia let them in and collapsed on the couch, then told Sarah everything. About Marcus, about the conversation with Patrick, about the impossible choice looming over them. Sarah listened without interrupting, then went to the kitchen and poured them both generous glasses of wine. Here is what I think, Sarah said, settling into the armchair. You are overthinking this because you are scared, which is valid but not helpful. How am I overthinking? You are catastrophizing. Yes, some people might make assumptions about your work, but anyone with eyes knows you are talented. You won the community center bid before anyone knew you and Patrick were together. Your portfolio speaks for itself. Sarah took a drink. And honestly, if you leave the firm now, that looks way worse. Like you are running away or like Patrick pushed you out. So what? We just tell HR and hope for the best. I think you have an honest conversation with Patrick about what you both want long term. Because if this is serious, if you see a future together, then you need to plan for that. And if it is not serious, if this is just a thing, then maybe the risk is not worth it. Amelia knew Sarah was right. She and Patrick had been so focused on the present, on stolen moments and hidden affection, that they had not talked about the future. What did they want? Where was this going? Were they willing to fight for it, or would they crumble at the first real obstacle? She called Patrick the next morning. Can you come over? We need to talk properly. He arrived within the hour, looking like he had slept as poorly as she had. They sat across from each other at her small dining table, coffee growing cold between them. I love you, Amelia started. I need to say that first, because I do not want anything else to get lost. I love you, and this is the most real thing I have felt in years. I love you too. Patrick reached across the table and she took his hand. Whatever comes next, that does not change. I have been thinking about what you said about options and futures, and I realized we have been reacting instead of planning. She took a breath. So I am asking, what do you want? Not what is practical or logical, but what do you actually want? Patrick did not hesitate. I want you. I want to wake up next to you and take you to dinner and introduce you to my sister and not have to hide how I feel. I want to work with you and build things together, both literally and figuratively. I want a future where this is not a secret or a problem, just a fact. I want that too, Amelia said, and the admission felt like shedding weight. But I also want my career. I want to be recognized for my work, to design buildings that matter, to prove that I belong here. You can have both. You should have both. Patrick squeezed her hand. So here is what I am thinking. We go to HR together, disclose the relationship, and be proactive instead of reactive. We make it clear that this developed after the community center project was awarded, that there has been no favoritism or inappropriate conduct. We propose a solution. I will recuse myself from decisions about your career. Promotions, raises, assignments, all of that goes through the senior partners, not me. You trust them to be fair. I do. And if they are not, you have documentation of your work quality that predates our relationship. You have leverage. He stood, pulling her up with him. But more than that, I trust you. You are brilliant and hardworking, and you do not need me to succeed. You are going to do incredible things with or without my help. Amelia wrapped her arms around him, pressing her face into his chest. What if they fire me anyway? Then you dust yourself off and get a job somewhere better, and I will be cheering you on. He kissed the top of her head. But I do not think it will come to that. The policy is designed to prevent abuse, not punish genuine relationships between adults. When did you become an optimist? When I met you. They spent the rest of the weekend preparing, gathering documentation, drafting a proposal for how to handle the situation. Patrick called an emergency meeting with the senior partners to brief them before going to HR, and to Amelia's relief, they were supportive. One of them, an older woman named Patricia who had been with the firm since the beginning, laughed. It is about time you found someone, she told Patrick. You have been married to this place for too long. She turned to Amelia. Your work is excellent, and that is not me being polite. We will make sure everything is handled properly. The meeting with HR was less warm but ultimately professional. The director, a stern man named Richard, reviewed the policy and listened to their proposed solution. This is irregular, he said finally, but not without precedent. Other firms have dealt with similar situations. I will need to review this with the board, but your proposal is reasonable. And in the meantime, Patrick asked, in the meantime you maintain professional distance at work, no preferential treatment, no appearance of impropriety. We will be watching. Richard closed his folder. I will have a decision by the end of the week. They walked out of the office in a daze. It was only Tuesday, and the week stretched ahead of them like a chasm. Amelia went back to her desk and tried to focus on work, but she was hyper-aware of the eyes on her, the whispers that had started. Marcus gave her a thumbs up from across the room, which helped marginally. Sarah appeared at lunch with sandwiches. You did the right thing. No matter what happens, you were honest. I know. I just wish I knew the outcome. That is called being human. Uncertainty is the price of admission. Sarah unwrapped her sandwich. But for what it is worth, I think they will let you stay. Firing you would open them up to all kinds of legal issues, and Patrick made sure you have protection. The days crawled by. Amelia threw herself into work, finishing drawings for the community center, consulting with engineers, reviewing material samples. Patrick kept his distance at the office, but texted her frequently, small messages of support and affection. They did not see each other outside work, both feeling like they should wait for the decision before resuming normal life. Friday afternoon, Richard called them both into his office. Amelia's heart pounded as they sat down, Patrick's presence beside her both comforting and terrifying. The board has made a decision, Richard said. We are going to allow the relationship to continue under the following conditions. Patrick will recuse himself from all career decisions regarding Amelia. Those decisions will be made by the senior partners. You will both undergo training on maintaining professional boundaries, and we will be conducting quarterly reviews for the next year to ensure no issues arise. So Amelia keeps her job? Patrick asked. She keeps her job. Richard looked at Amelia directly. Your work speaks for itself, Miss Zhang. The board has no concerns about your qualifications or performance. Our only concern is maintaining a fair and professional work environment. Amelia felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you. I will not let you down. See that you do not. Richard stood, extending his hand. And congratulations to you both, I suppose. Try to keep the drama to a minimum going forward. They shook hands and left the office, maintaining composure until they reached the parking garage. Then Patrick pulled her into his arms and they stood there holding each other, relief flooding through them. We did it, Amelia whispered. We actually did it. We did. Patrick kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. I am so proud of you. We still have to be careful. The quarterly reviews, the training, everyone watching. I know. But now they are watching a relationship that is acknowledged and approved, not a secret that could blow up. He pulled back to look at her. This is not going to be easy. People will talk. There will be assumptions and judgments. Are you ready for that? Amelia thought about her grandmother, about taking risks for the things that mattered. She thought about the community center, about designing dreams into reality. She thought about Patrick, about the way he looked at her like she was the most important blueprint he had ever studied. I am ready, she said, for all of it. That evening, Patrick took her to meet his sister. Caroline lived in a renovated Craftsman in northeast Portland, and she answered the door with a knowing smile. So this is the woman who finally got through to my brother. Come in. I have been dying to meet you. Caroline was petite with short dark hair and Patrick's same green eyes. She ushered them into a cozy living room filled with bookshelves and plants. Patrick has told me absolutely nothing about you, which means you are important. That is not true, Patrick protested. I told you her name. After I badgered you for 3 weeks. Caroline turned to Amelia. What do you see in this workaholic? And please be honest, because I need ammunition for family dinners. Amelia laughed, liking her immediately. He is smart and dedicated and he cares deeply about his work. Also, he has terrible taste in coffee. She is not wrong about the coffee, Caroline said to Patrick. I like her. You can keep her." They had dinner at Caroline's table, eating pasta and salad and drinking wine while Caroline told embarrassing stories about Patrick's childhood. He endured it with good humor, occasionally protesting that she was exaggerating but mostly just smiling. Amelia watched the easy affection between them and felt something loosen in her chest. This was real. This was family. This was the future they were building, brick by careful brick. After dinner, Caroline pulled Amelia aside while Patrick did the dishes. "I have not seen him this happy in years," she said quietly. "Maybe ever. Whatever you two are doing, it is working. We are just trying to figure it out as we go. That is all anyone does." Caroline squeezed her arm. "But for what it is worth, I think you are good for each other. He needs someone who challenges him, and you look at him like he hung the moon." "Is it that obvious?" "Only to people who are looking." Caroline smiled. "Welcome to the family, Amelia." The next few months were a study in balance. At work, Amelia and Patrick maintained professional distance, their interactions limited to necessary collaboration. But the senior partners were true to their word, evaluating her work fairly and assigning her increasingly complex projects. She earned a promotion to mid-level architect, a decision made by Patricia and the other partners without Patrick's input. The quarterly reviews came and went without incident. Outside the office, their relationship deepened. They fell into routines, weekends spent exploring the city, weeknight dinners at each other's places, lazy mornings reading the paper over coffee. Patrick taught her to appreciate basketball, taking her to Trail Blazers games and explaining the strategy behind plays. Amelia introduced him to her favorite bookstores and art galleries, the places she went when she needed to remember why beauty mattered. They had their first real fight 4 months in, about something stupid that escalated into something bigger. Patrick had been invited to speak at a conference in Chicago and had not told Amelia until 2 days before he was supposed to leave. She felt blindsided, like an afterthought. "Why did you not tell me sooner?" she asked, standing in his condo with her arms crossed. "I did not think it was a big deal. It is just 3 days. It is not about the time. It is about you making plans without considering me. I am not asking you to check in about everything, but a heads up would be nice." "You are right." Patrick sat on the couch, suddenly looking exhausted. "I am sorry. I am still learning how to do this, how to have someone in my life who I need to think about." Amelia's anger deflated. She sat beside him, taking his hand. "I am learning too. I am sorry I snapped at you." "No, you had every right to snap. I was being thoughtless." He kissed her knuckles. "Come with me to Chicago. I will get you a ticket. We can make it a weekend, see the city." "I cannot just take off work." "Sure you can. You have vacation days. Use them." Amelia considered. She did have the days, and the idea of traveling together was appealing. "Okay. But you are planning all the non-conference activities." "Deal." Chicago was cold and windy, but they loved it anyway. Patrick's conference speech was well received, and Amelia sat in the audience feeling proud and slightly awed at how commanding he was on stage. They ate deep dish pizza and walked along the lakefront and visited the Art Institute, where they spent 2 hours in the architecture section, debating the merits of different design movements. "Frank Lloyd Wright was overrated," Amelia said, examining a model of Fallingwater. "That is heresy," Patrick replied, but he was grinning. "Explain yourself." "He was brilliant, yes, but also egotistical. His buildings are stunning but often uncomfortable to actually live in. Form over function taken to an extreme." "So you are a functionalist." "I am a person who thinks buildings should serve the people in them, not the other way around." She moved to the next exhibit. Architecture is not just art. It is shelter, community, identity. It has to work on multiple levels. Patrick followed, slipping his hand into hers now that they were alone in the gallery. "This is why I love you. You care about the right things." "What are the right things?" "People, purpose, making the world a little bit better, one building at a time." They stood in the quiet gallery, surrounded by models and drawings of dreams made real, and Amelia thought about how far they had come. From a broken coffee machine to this, standing in a museum in a different city, holding hands and talking about their shared passion. It had been worth it. Every risk, every difficult conversation, every moment of uncertainty, this was worth it. That night in their hotel room, tangled together under crisp white sheets, Patrick traced patterns on her shoulder and said, "Move in with me." Amelia lifted her head from his chest. "What? Move in with me?" "Your lease is up next month and we spend almost every night together anyway. It makes sense." "That is possibly the least romantic proposal I have ever heard." "Let me try again." Patrick shifted so they were face to face. "I love waking up next to you. I love coming home to you. I love the way you leave books everywhere and how you sing off-key in the shower and how you steal all the blankets. I want that every day, not just on weekends. Move in with me." "Better," Amelia said, kissing him. "Yes, I will move in with you." They flew back to Portland engaged in a different way, committed to building a life together. Amelia gave notice on her apartment and started packing, amazed at how much she had accumulated in 2 years. Sarah helped, throwing things into boxes with cheerful efficiency. "Look at you, moving in with your CEO boyfriend. Very adult of you." Sarah wrapped a set of dishes in newspaper. "I am happy for you, really." "But," Amelia prompted, hearing the hesitation. "No, but I just want to make sure you are doing this for the right reasons. Not because it is convenient or expected, but because you actually want to live together." "I want to," Amelia said with certainty. "He is my partner, Sarah. In every sense of the word, I love him and I want to build a life with him." "Then that is all that matters." Sarah hugged her. "But you better still make time for me. I am not losing my best friend to domesticity. Never." Moving in together was an adjustment. Patrick had to make space in his pristine condo for Amelia's books and art supplies and collection of vintage teacups. Amelia had to get used to living in a space that felt expensive and minimalist, so different from her cluttered apartment. But they compromised, creating a home that was both of them, warm and lived in and beautiful. The community center broke ground that spring, and Amelia spent months on the construction site, watching her design transform into reality. It was everything she had dreamed it would be. Walls rising from concrete foundations, windows catching the light, spaces taking shape that would soon be filled with people and laughter and life. Patrick came to the site regularly, officially to check on the project, but really just to watch her work. "You belong here," he said one afternoon, standing beside her as she reviewed blueprints with the contractor, on construction sites, everywhere. "But yes, here too. Creating things, making a difference." He smiled at her, that private smile that was just for her. "I am proud of you. I could not have done this without you." "Yes, you could have, but I am glad I got to be part of it." The community center opened on a perfect October day, exactly a year after the coffee machine had broken. The neighborhood turned out in force, families and local officials and curious onlookers. Amelia gave a short speech about the design philosophy, about creating space for community and connection. Patrick stood in the back, watching her with obvious pride, and when she finished and the crowd applauded, he was the first to reach her. "You did it," he said, pulling her into a hug despite the crowd. "It is perfect." "It is pretty good," she agreed, surveying her work. Children were already exploring the playground, adults inspecting the gardens, teenagers claiming the covered basketball court. The building was alive, serving its purpose exactly as she had intended. That evening, Patrick took her to the same restaurant where they had their first date, the one overlooking the city. They sat at the same table by the window, a year older and infinitely more certain. "I have been thinking about something," Patrick said after they ordered. "About us and the future and what I want." "Okay." Amelia's heart quickened, sensing something significant coming. "We have built something good together. A relationship, a partnership, a home. We have fought for it and protected it and made it work despite all the obstacles." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "I do not want to just date you anymore, Amelia. I want to marry you." He pulled a ring from his pocket, simple and elegant, a sapphire surrounded by small diamonds. "This was my grandmother's. She told me to give it to someone who made me better, who challenged me, who I could build a life with." He slid from his chair, kneeling beside the table. "Amelia Zhang, will you marry me?" The restaurant went quiet, other diners watching with interest. Amelia felt tears streaming down her face, but she was smiling so hard it hurt. "Yes," she said, laughing and crying simultaneously. "Of course, yes." Patrick slipped the ring onto her finger and it fit perfectly, like it had been waiting for her all along. Then he kissed her, and the restaurant erupted in applause, strangers celebrating the love story unfolding in front of them. They spent the rest of dinner making plans, giddy and excited and already arguing about whether the wedding should be big or small, traditional or unconventional. Patrick wanted something intimate, just family and close friends. Amelia wanted to invite everyone they knew to celebrate openly after so many months of secrecy. "We could compromise," Patrick suggested. "Small ceremony, big reception. I can live with that." They told Caroline first, who screamed so loud Patrick had to hold the phone away from his ear. "Finally. I thought you would never ask her. When is the wedding? Can I help plan? Do you need a maid of honor? I am available." Amelia laughed, taking the phone from Patrick. "Yes, you can help plan. And I would love for you to be in the wedding party." "You are officially my favorite person," Caroline declared. "Come over tomorrow. We have so much to talk about." At work, they kept the engagement quiet for a few days, wanting to savor it privately before it became office news. But eventually, they had to tell HR, another disclosure for the file. Richard congratulated them with what might have been a genuine smile. "I suppose this means the relationship worked out," he said dryly. "Try to keep the wedding planning from disrupting the office." "We will do our best," Patrick promised. The news spread through the firm quickly, met with mostly positive reactions. A few people looked skeptical, probably still convinced that Amelia had slept her way to success, but most were genuinely happy. Marcus from accounting gave Patrick a fist bump and told Amelia she had made an honest man of him. "I am not sure that is how it works," Amelia replied, but she was smiling. They got married 6 months later, on a spring day that threatened rain but delivered sunshine instead. The ceremony was small, held in a garden at a historic estate, with Caroline and Sarah standing up for them and both their families in attendance. Patrick's mother cried through the entire ceremony. Amelia wore a simple dress that she had found at a vintage shop, cream-colored lace that made her feel like she had stepped out of another era. When Patrick saw her walking toward him, his eyes filled with tears, and Amelia knew in that moment that every risk had been worth it. The policy handbook, the worry about careers, the fear of judgment, all of it paled in comparison to this. To the man who loved her standing at the end of a flower-lined path, waiting to promise her forever. They exchanged vows they had written themselves. Patrick promised to always support her dreams, to be her partner in creation and in life, to love her through the difficult days and the easy ones. Amelia promised to challenge him, to build a life of beauty and meaning together, to choose him every day for the rest of their days. When the officiant pronounced them married, Patrick kissed her like they were the only two people in the world, and maybe in that moment they were. The reception was everything they had hoped for, a celebration that spilled from the estate house into the gardens, music and dancing and food that lasted into the night. Amelia danced with Patrick under string lights, with Caroline and Sarah, with her elderly uncle who had flown in from California. She felt surrounded by love, by the community they had built, by the life they were creating together. Late in the evening, she and Patrick snuck away to a quiet corner of the garden, needing a moment alone. They sat on a stone bench, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. "Happy?" he asked. "Impossibly happy." Amelia looked up at the stars just beginning to appear in the darkening sky. "Do you ever think about where we would be if the coffee machine had not broken?" "Sometimes. But I think we would have found our way to each other eventually." Patrick kissed her temple. "Some things are inevitable. Like us. Exactly like us." They returned to the reception, to their friends and family and the life they were building. They danced until midnight, when Caroline drove them to the hotel where they would spend their wedding night before leaving for their honeymoon in Greece. In the hotel room, Patrick carried her over the threshold despite her protests that it was old-fashioned and unnecessary. "Some traditions are worth keeping," he said, setting her down gently. They made love slowly, tenderly, whispering promises into each other's skin. Afterward, they lay tangled together, Amelia tracing the lines of Patrick's face in the darkness. "I love you," she said. "Thank you for being worth the risk." "Thank you for taking the risk," Patrick replied. "I would break 1,000 rules for you. Let us hope we do not have to." They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, two people who had found something worth fighting for and chosen to fight. The years that followed were full and rich. The community center won awards, and Amelia's reputation grew. She designed a library, just as she had always dreamed, a soaring space filled with light and possibility. Patrick expanded the firm, bringing on new partners, but he never lost his love for the actual work of architecture, for putting pencil to paper and imagining what could be. They bought a house, a fixer-upper in a quiet neighborhood with good bones and terrible plumbing. They spent weekends renovating it together, arguing cheerfully about paint colors and cabinet hardware, transforming it into a home that reflected both of them. Caroline was a constant presence, along with Sarah and a widening circle of friends and colleagues. 2 years after the wedding, Amelia got pregnant. It was unexpected but welcome, a new kind of creation. Patrick was overjoyed and terrified, reading parenting books with the same intensity he brought to architectural journals. Amelia worked until her 8th month, then reluctantly took maternity leave, frustrated at being sidelined from projects she cared about. Their daughter arrived on a snowy December morning, small and perfect and impossibly loud. They named her Rose after Patrick's grandmother. Holding her for the first time, Amelia understood in a completely new way what it meant to build something that mattered. This tiny person was the most important design they would ever collaborate on. Patrick was a devoted father, getting up for night feedings and changing diapers without complaint. He took paternity leave, something unheard of for a CEO, and spent a month at home learning how to be a parent. Amelia watched him rock their daughter to sleep, singing off key lullabies, and fell in love with him all over again. Going back to work after maternity leave was harder than she expected. She missed Rose constantly, worried about being a bad mother for caring about her career. But Patrick reminded her that she could be both, that their daughter would benefit from seeing her mother pursue her passions. "She is going to grow up knowing that women can build things that last," he said one evening as they cleaned up after dinner, Rose asleep in her bassinet. "That is a gift. They figured it out. the impossible balance of parenthood and careers and marriage. They hired a nanny, a warm woman named Alina who loved Rose like her own. They adjusted schedules and shared responsibilities and were exhausted most of the time but happy in a deep, bone-level way. When Rose was 3, Patrick surprised Amelia with a proposal for a different kind of project. He wanted to start a foundation focused on providing architecture and design services to underserved communities. He wanted her to run it. "You are better at this than I am," he said. "Understanding what communities need, listening to people, creating spaces that actually serve their purpose. This should be yours." Amelia was hesitant at first, worried about taking on too much, but the idea took root in her imagination, this chance to use her skills for something bigger than individual buildings. She said yes. The foundation launched the following year, and Amelia threw herself into the work. They designed community centers and affordable housing, parks and schools, always in partnership with the neighborhoods they served. It was challenging and rewarding in ways her commercial work had never been, and she loved it fiercely. Patrick stayed on as CEO of the firm but gradually stepped back from day-to-day operations, mentoring younger architects and focusing on passion projects. He and Amelia collaborated frequently, their professional partnership as strong as their personal one. The quarterly reviews from HR had long since ended, replaced by a general acceptance that the Pearsons were a team in all ways. Rose grew into a bright, curious child who loved drawing and building elaborate structures with blocks. She spent time in both her parents' offices, absorbing the language of design like